Nearing the midpoint of the 2002 kart season, 18 men share one goal, capturing the Drivers' Championship. One thing is swiftly becoming clear. One man is establishing himself as the one to catch. Cristiano D'Amata has driven to 3 road course victories. With wins in half the races contested so far, including 2 straight, no one has been hotter than the young Brazilian. But today, they are not on a road course. It's an oval. Can D'Amata stay cool in the heat of Chicago?
Hot town, summer in the city, back of my neck getting dirt and gritty. Been down, isn't it a pity? Doesn't seem to be a shadow in the city.
The Windy City is indeed one hot town as the CBS Auto Racing Series today features round 7 of the Kart FedEx Championship Series. Welcome to the Kart Grand Prix of Chicago at Chicago Motor Speedway. It's a big weekend here in Chicago. This morning, the Brazilian drivers in the FedEx Championship were at the track early, not for practice, but to watch their World Cup stars in the World Cup final against Germany. That reaction tells you who broke a 0-0 tie in the second half. And then the insurance goal, a 2-0 victory for Brazil, their 5th World Cup title. Both goals scored by Brazil's all-world player Ronaldo, who has a rather interesting haircut. And so Cristiano D'Amata, Bruno Junqueira, Tony Kanaan, and Christian Fittipaldi all decided to cut their hair similarly for today. And Derek Daly, I think the effect is right. Stunning. I'm Bob Varsha. Welcome to the kickoff of Independence Day week with what should be a great race on a blistering hot day. And no driver at the track, Derek, is hotter than Cristiano D'Amata.
He really is the best driver right now, obviously leading the championship. But how refreshing it was to see this man here, Dario Franchitti, grab the pole yesterday. Hasn't had a pole for almost 2 years. And in those 2 years, a lot of interesting things with Dario. Married, of course, the lovely actress Ashley Judd. But great to see him on top form yesterday and grabs the pole. Now D'Amata, the man on form, trying to reproduce his road course form, starts off by mowing down one of his crew members. That was John Littlefield. He was bruised and bashed, back in uniform and ready to go today. But in qualifying, have a look at this here. Coming off turn 4, Cristiano gets the big old wiggle, which is sometimes a death spiral on an oval track. Cost him the pole. Now look at this here. Tony Kanaan, this was Saturday practice. Right after he set the fastest speed, he dodges a bullet. Boy, he was lucky to get away with that. But the interesting thing, if you look down the grid here, there's less than 9/10 of a second curve whole field. We could be in for a real barnstormer this afternoon.
This track is very sensitive to weather changes, and the story today is heat. The air temperature 93 degrees, but adjusted for the humidity, it's about 110 degrees down in the pit lane. The cockpit temperatures will be higher than that, and wrapped in layers of fire-retardant clothing with gloves, boots, balaclavas, and helmets on, and no power steering to help with these high downforce cars, these drivers are going to earn their substantial salaries today. Now, for the pre-race festivities at trackside, let's go down to Kart PA announcer Bruce Flanders to introduce a special guest.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Thank you, Joe. Moving up here to join me on the podium for the magic words, Jesse White. Jesse, word. Gentlemen, start your engines. Cool. Rattle those puppies.
Well, I'm sure Bruce Flanders would be the first one in. It's better than Emmy Award-winning actor Joe Mantegna, a Chicago native, sing the national anthem, than to have Bruce do it. Engines are now fired. The field will be pulling out shortly. Let's get down to pit reporter Ralph Shaheen.
Bob, it's going to be well over 130 degrees inside the cockpit where Kenny Brack is sitting here today. He's going to need fluids just like his race car. So he will have one of these packs which will have 70 ounces of fluid. They will stick it right up inside the nose cone here today. The reason being they want to get it away from the heat of the car. This fluid, if it's farther back, can get to 130 degrees. That way Kenny Brack doesn't have cool water to drink. He would be drinking hot tea at that point. Cars could lose as much as 5 to 7 pounds in fluid here today. Jan Binkus?
Well, Ralph, Adrian Fernandez had a problem yesterday, and he only qualified in 17th position. But then wisely, he withdrew that car, took the backup car out. Now, even though he was second quickest this morning in the warm-up, he says, you know what? I don't think moving through the field is going to be all that easy. His strategy, go ahead and use this hot, sweltering day to push the car in front of you. Hope that these hot conditions make his handling go off.
Overstate the difficulty of the athletic exercise these 18 drivers are about to embark on. On the pole for the first time in 31 races, Scotsman Dario Franchitti alongside Canadian Alex Tagliani. On row 2, Cristiano D'Amato, the points leader, coming in, doing very well on the short ovals for a change. He'll start next to countryman and Miami roommate Tony Kanaan. On row 3, Bruno Junqueira, who was just 16th in the morning warm-up on full tanks and race tires. He'll be next to owner-operator Adrian Fernandez, second in the warm-up. On row 4 will be Canadian Patrick Carpentier alongside Japanese driver Tora Takagi. On row 5, Kiwi Scott Dixon was the fastest man in the morning warm-up. He'll be next to American Jimmy Vasser. On row 6, Christian Fittipaldi, Ronaldo Du and all, starting next to the defending race champion Kenny Brack. On row 7, Paul Tracy and Michael Andretti, back in the inaugural edition of this race in 19. Ronaldo Du and all, starting next to the defending race champion Kenny Brack. On row 7, Paul Tracy and Michael Andretti. Back in the inaugural edition of this race in 1999, they collided midway through the race. On row 8, Mario Dominguez, the rookie from Mexico City, and Shinji Nakano of Japan. And on the final row, Townsend Bell, suffering from a bout of food poisoning this weekend. He'll start alongside Michel Jourdain Jr. of Mexico. We have puffy clouds overhead, but very, very hot temperatures expected to get warmer as the day goes on. Here's a look at our race analysis. At 250 laps of this 1 mile oval, the race is 25 miles longer than it was a year ago. The maximum interval before a driver must pit is 68 laps for 4 fresh tires and fuel. The pit window opens at lap 46. The speed limit has now been graduated. 50 miles an hour in the pit lane, 85 before you can come fully back up to speed. We'll talk about that more later. Every driver has more than enough fuel to go flat out for the distance. 7 sets of tires on an unusual 2 rather than 3-day weekend for practice qualifying in the race itself, so the drivers have plenty of Bridgestone rubber as well. As I mentioned, last year's winner, Kenny Brack, set the old race record. We'll have a new one as a result of the 25 extra laps added for today's race. Derek, how about a look at the track?
Affectionately known as a paperclip oval. 6 degrees of banking, low speed in the corners, 125 miles an hour, top speed above 190, 1 or 2 gear changes depending on your preference down these straights.
1 lap to go. The safety cars are off the track, and the field will now start forming up 2 by 2. As you see, very little banking on this racetrack. Wide and smooth, but very slick. And with the temperature rising all the time, it will get slicker.
And the first 10 cars are all about the same speed here. So these starts and the restarts as the afternoon goes on will be critical. Tagliani lost the pole by 1,000th of a second. Can he take the advantage over Dario?
You hear race control talking to chief starter Jim Swintal, who eyes them as they come off the corner.
Flag.
Frank Kitty is out in front, and we are away. Green flag for 250 laps in Chicago. And oh, Jimmy Vasser.
And Scott Dixon, I believe.
Vasser in the yellow and white car. Scott Dixon in the Target Chip Ganassi Racing, Lola.
No, Brack.
Oh, excuse me. Is that Kenny Brack?
That is Kenny Brack.
It is the defending race champion. And we go immediately under yellow. There's Vasser.
Kenny made a banzai move down the outside and chopped down on top of Jimmy Vasser. I can't understand how we would make a move as aggressive without ever making it around that first corner. Most strange from the man who won here last year in the Shell car that he knocked out.
Look at the debris. Simple Green safety crew goes to work. A lot of cleanup for this one.
Well, well, well. That is such a surprise to see that happen this early. Now, Jimmy was in 10th place on the 5th row of the grid, and Kenny Brack was a row behind him in 12th. And I bet you Jimmy goes to Kenny right now and says, what were you thinking of? Jimmy is just absolutely disgusted.
There is Brack walking away. Jan Beekes.
Well, to answer your question, Derek, what Jimmy Vasser said on the radio was exactly what you thought. First, yes, I'm okay, and I don't know what Kenny Brack was thinking.
Here it is again. Now, Kenny right side, watch, he goes past Jimmy, and then he chops down right there. Boom. What was he thinking of? Jimmy was already there. And look at the contact here. Jimmy then goes in sideways. Actually, Jimmy had light contact against the wall because you see he locked the brakes up all the way in. Now, see, the wheels are still tied on here because of the Kevlar weave tethers that tethers these wheels to the chassis. Here's head on. Here's Kenny coming down here. Turns in right there. Boom. Jimmy had nowhere to go, and Kenny did not hold it wide enough line, having committed himself to the outside, and there's the result.
And thereby committing himself to go 5 wide down into turn 1. Here's another look. Count the cars.
Again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wide, and Kenny chops down. Jimmy didn't have a hope. Kenny didn't have a hope. And remember, even though this is the start, they're still doing about 125 miles an hour minimum as they turn in left into turn 1. There's on the right side out here. Yeah, as soon as that happens, that's it. I mean, Kenny had a big, big wallop there. You see 3 wheels torn from the car, but held on by those Kevlar weave tethers designed. Here's Kenny right here. See, turns in, turns in, squeezes Jimmy. In fact, look. In fact, there were 3 cars inside Jimmy at that particular time.
I'm a bit surprised we didn't get more contact out of that crowd.
The strange thing was, Kenny Brack, during the break,